Hi, I'm Derek, and I thought we would talk a little bit about how games are made, why, how simple they are to get started in game development today, and in game jams. I'm going to start a new game jam, I hope, in a couple of hours, and I am hoping to take an older project from like 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I first started learning how to code, because I'd mostly been on the art side in my career. So, Befriender is an homage to Defender, of course, and I'm trying to capture that look. In art school, they told us to copy the masters, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to learn how to do things by seeing what the people before me did. So, and I think it's fun and important to when you're copying the masters to put your own twist in, and it's always a fun mind exercise to in game dev to think, well, what if you're playing as the other guy, the other side. So we're going to explore playing as the aliens, as the bad guys, the enemies in Defender. So instead of defending an alien invasion, we are going to a new planet and making friends, and then going to a different planet and devastating it as well. And I'm trying to credit, of course, the original devs, and trying to mimic the original attract mode from Defender, which I want to say 82, but then I think the date's going to come up in a bit, right? And we used to have a attract mode in video games in arcades. I guess they still do. But the attract mode is where you're showing off the game and you're trying to attract people to come and put quarters in. So here we go. Here are the original creators of Defender, and I was going to use the original sprites, but I didn't really like the way they looked, so I went ahead and just recreated them one for one in Photoshop, and I wasn't sure if that's the way to go either. We can zoom into our various game objects, and here I have an original Defender that's based on the original artwork, just Photoshop and just repainted. And then I'm trying to make one that's looks like Defender. This color obviously needs to be a bit. We will fix that. But if we build him out of polygons, shapes, just simple like squares that mimic pixels, then we can maybe blow them up in cool, interesting ways. And game jams, which are a really wonderful way to get started in game dev. Most game jams last for a week. Some last for 3 days. Some last for a month. This one that I'm joining, and which you can join too, is going to be the one button game jam, and I think there's about 1,000 participants. Last time I looked, and the game jam should start in about a couple hours. And my plan is to take my the old Befriender project from 3 years ago, and instead of the player being a lander mutant coming down from the saucer, we're just going to make the player the saucer, and then we're just going to have the saucer rotate around the planet and slowly get closer, I think. And the one button would be the one button would be the saucer releasing a lander. And so we will have cities that will be shooting up defensive anti-air, and we will have the defender. Now, I just resized everything like the planet because the planet was too small, and it was giving me some vertigo as it was moving by these stars, which are supposed to be reminiscent of the old Defender graphics. We're going to play around with that some. The mini map we see on the top will be the Defender's view, and that's just to mimic the old game, which had a little mini map on top, I think, but will also give it'll give the player some hints. It'll tell the player with screen sheet where the Defender is. And right now, the Defender just does nothing. It just shoots very loud and obnoxious bullets. And how these games are constructed in Unity is everything's pretty much based on a game object. Even if it's a script that's just keeping score, we can put that on an empty game object, and that's where it kind of exists in the world. And I had no idea what I was doing 3-4 years ago. And my goal was just to get kind of the look and feel, except that you're one of the aliens. So a lot of mistakes and a lot of ways I could have done things better. But I thought I'd go through. But first I wanted to talk about the game jam and encourage everyone to go. Because when you do that search for itch and game jams, it will bring you to this very overwhelming calendar that we can move around, check the dates. But here is the jam that I'm looking at. So it looks like 40 people joined in the last couple hours. It has just started here on the 22nd and goes to December 1st. And a game jam is just a kind of a friendly little competition where you are just mainly challenging yourself. You can explore some ideas. And I just thought I'd go through what to expect. So it looks like the jam just started, and in 9 days it'll be done, and that's when submissions are due. And then usually everyone who submitted gets to play everyone else's game, and then there's a vote, and that's really fun. If you don't have to do it alone, most game jams, because if we go back, we could see that there are a lot. There are hundreds. So, tabs. So most game jams will have a Discord server, and you can click on just the link. We go in, and there will be a channel for looking for a team, and that's what you want to do. You just say, "Hey, I'm looking for a team," and there will be other very helpful channels available on any Discord server. Almost every game jam will have a Discord server as a host. Let's load up, make sure that we're in the right scene, and we're just going to check out what pieces make the player. And let me run and see what we got. We got nothing, no controls on the... If I release a lander, it'll make a loud noise, but if I can release them, and what we're going to do is when the lander lands on the planet, we'll do something fun and interesting there. We just don't know yet. But we have 9 days. We know what our gameplay is going to be. Basically, the saucer's rotating around the planet, and you want to. We'll make the saucer vulnerable once it lands and stops moving, and then it could be attacked, and that's what we'll do. So you'll want to have all of your landers destroy the cities before before you destroy enough of the defenses so that you're not overwhelmed when you land. There, that's going to be our gameplay. So, what is our saucer? What is our UFO made out of? We double click on it and we see that it has a canvas associated to it, so we will want to make sure we're digitally holding the object by the pivot rather than its center. See this green box? That is going to be our collider. My cat is saying hello. So our game object, we can place it anywhere on the scene, and when we hit the play button, it will act according to these components and scripts we have attached to the game object. The rigid body component is a thing that allows us to add force to the saucer. And in this case, we have a gravity script that I learned from a Unity tutorial on YouTube. And so we will be adding force through that script rather than the gravity scale button. So we want to have that to 0 because we've got our own gravity code. That should be a 1. Let's see how much that changes things. Good. Everything still runs well. And the Defender is about to crash into a planet. Well, we're gonna work on that. So, we have our saucer object. It has a specific tag, like a color or a flavor that we can give the object, and its mass. And that tag basically tells the gravity script to work on it. We have the saucer script, which is going to do things with the rigid body. So we have to identify that this game object, our flying saucer, is an object that gravity and force is going to act on, and it needs this particular rigid body. We have a list for 3 random objects, 2 of which are our lander, and the other one is our mutant. They both have gravity scripts associated with them, so they should just fall down to the planet. And then go searching for the nearest human. The human is supposed to turn into the egg, not the lander. But the egg will hatch into a mutant. And that's what we have, and we're going to improve that because this was very, very, very clunkily done. And we're going to have to find this object because I forget how annoying those sounds are. So my apologies. I have somewhere, and I think it's in the laser blasts, I have put an ear. A listening, a component on an object that says this is where the player's ears are. And without that there won't be any sound and you'll get a few errors. But back to the saucer. So the saucer has this rigid body that gravity will act on. And the saucer can create these other game objects, the landers and the mutant. Our final button here says none, which is usually bad. You want to have all of these filled out. But if we hit the play, we'll see that in the script that automatically attaches to the center of the planet here. And that just tells the saucer where the center of the planet is, because that's what the saucer is using to rotate around. And let's get rid of these guys before they get annoying, and we'll take the defender object off, even though that will break the mini-map camera up on top. We'll just test that and see that now there is no camera, there is no defender showing us some info there. Rigid body transforms. I would hope that this is simple enough. Perfect. All right. Now that we've gone through just what objects, forces, and scripts are controlling the saucer, we'll go into a script I started 4 years ago. So I've tried to tidy it up a little bit and just go through some things that make up this little script that tells the saucer how to act. Our script name is saucer, and so this word here really needs to be the same as the script file name, otherwise it can't find it. These are our various libraries up here that we're going to use. If we're going to have user interface stuff happening in the script, I would need to include the user interface libraries up here, and but for the most part, that's what those are, I think. In the script, before anything happens, before the script is awake or before the script starts, we have to define everything that the saucer player needs. So it needs that rigid body so that force can act on it. And here we're defining force, and we're calling this force thrust. And this is a terrible variable name because it's a real word and it's going to cause confusion. But look how nice it is. If you double click on it, it will highlight all the instances of that in your script. And that just makes things a lot easier. So here's our thrust variable. And we can change this number. We're about to change that number. Those 3 random objects that the saucer can create at a push of a button. This is the list for that. And what makes it random is just these 2 brackets, I believe. And we're gonna change that later. We're gonna make this not random, but just the single object, which is going to be just the lander. It's just from older code, when in the original version you played the lander, not the saucer, and you had more than one button. So we're simplifying things. We're simplifying everything, and then we're going to concentrate the next 9 days on trying to make some interesting enemies and AI behavior, which I've never done before. So as soon as the game object awakes, we are setting the thrust to 4.2 units a fraction of a second. And here's a good time to say, find some numbers that you love, so that you just know all the the multiples. And I use 42 a lot, and prime numbers. So it's just a little bit easier. What number did I use? And the funny thing is, if you use those numbers, if you understand the golden ratio, it is weird how the numbers just sort of work themselves out in an appealing way. So that's just my opinion there, and that's why everything's a 42, a 24, a 17. And that is where we're applying the thrust. Now, in the original game, where it was the more than one button, the saucer had some initial force applied to it, just some initial force, just like a push, so that when the gravity took over, the UFO would not fall straight down to the planet, but have some initial velocity, so that it would orbit the planet. But just a little push, not a constant push, just a little push right when it wakes up. But then we commented that out because that was not going to work if the player only had one button and also had to control the spaceship. So the spaceship just orbits, rotates around the center of the planet right here. This is where we're getting the center of the planet. Let's see. I wonder if... I bet if I do that, it'll be a little bit easier if anybody's reading. So, thank you. I wonder if that might help a little too. So let me try it one more time. So here at Void Start, this is where the script is starting, and we're saying, hey, what we need to know where the center of the planet is, because every turn, every round, every notch of the clock, we want our player flying saucer game object to rotate around the center transform. Not the best name. That's a terrible variable name, but it's old. We want to take that idea, that idea of a spot of a position, the center of the planet. We want to take that idea and say, hey, rotate around that. And vector forward is the direction that we're going to rotate around. And that you'll get a better explanation on the Unity site on forward, back, left, right, these shorthand directions that actually modern tools are so great. It's giving the information right here and the help. So forward is just shorthand for writing 0, 0, 1. So X, Y, Z, plus 1 in the Z axis. Axes. So we're going to rotate around the center idea object in this direction by this much. So we're taking our thrust, timesing it by 1, which we don't need. We can get rid of that, and it should run fine. And if it doesn't, it will tell me exactly where the problem is. So every tick of the clock, we're going to rotate around the center of the planet by this amount. And that's what that one line means. This is all the old stuff from when we're going to do a more advanced one where the player can fly around, but right now all the saucer movement's going to be controlled, And the only button the player will have, we're going to borrow from a different script. Which is right here. And this is set to I at the moment just because of old code. Again, these buttons, the up, down, left, and right arrow keys in the code. Just after we find the center, rotate in a direction around it once every tick of the clock. As we're doing that, the game is also checking, am I pushing any of these buttons down? And if I push these buttons down, do this, add force to that rigid body in this direction, this amount. But we're not going to do that, but that's what all that means. And I should just get rid of that, but we'll leave it in because after this game jam, we're going to go back to letting the player control things. So the one button, and what the one button does, you can see here it's code from, I just copied and pasted it. I'm not ashamed. I'm doing my best. So the one button right now, button I, if it's pressed, the script says, hey, let me look at that list of 3 objects. And that's what this means. If it was 9 or 10, we would do that in the editor instead of here. But within the next 9 days, we're going to change this to not be a random object, but we're just going to create the lander. But right now, it says, hey, I need a number, and the number is a random number, and that random number equals a random range between 0 and object lander dot length. And object lander dot length is this right here. These 3 items. 2 of which, so I got 66% chance of a lander, 33% chance of a mutant. And we have created that object lander up here before the script starts, just in that line. Again, that's not a great object name, but it means something to me, so I can easily recognize it. So, one button, I need a number. Number is a random range between this and whatever the editor has objects in its list. And create it. Create this object from this list at the saucer's position. And then this just means somewhere in a circle around the saucer. And this is bad. We'll change this, but this was me trying to learn how to do this. And that's what happens to the saucer every single tick of the clock. Is it does just those things. It checks, are these buttons being pushed? And then what happens when something touches it? I should go back to the editor. Let's hit save all. Go to the editor. When games took hours to compile, it was not so easy to, I digress. So everything seems to be working. We haven't broken anything, and so it's just a good idea to just check your code, that it's still working before you do too many changes to one script. That's what I meant. I should say that again. It's a good idea to, save often and make sure that you're testing. And I would test after every change, every couple of changes. So here we are on what happens if something touches our player saucer. We will go back into our, oh, it's still running. We'll go into our player saucer, and where is our collider? We know it has one because I saw it. Huh? This green box is our collider. So where does the collider exist? There it is. The collider is on a different object because we will be calling it like the collider is on a separate game object because our main game object has the tag mass, or the flavor or the color for mass, so that gravity knows what to do to it. And since we don't have to destroy the saucer and, still keep it around or not have it around anymore, we can have the collider on a separate object, then with a separate tag, so that when things touch us, they'll go, is this a city? Is this a person? Is this a mutant? And we'll go look at that in a moment. So here's our little box collider, the simplest collider in the world. We can give it a physics material. It won't break if we don't, but we can refine how it moves. And the physics material has just how bouncy is it, how sticky is it. So fairly simple, but that is our collider, and we're going to write collider on just so we don't lose that object again. And after a few changes, we'll just go ahead and apply all of those changes to the prefab. And we want to, even though this is going to be the only object in the game, we want to make a prefab of it just so that we can have a backup copy. And I again forgot that there are very annoying sounds associated with those guys, so my apologies. Do a quick test. Yeah, we drop a lander. The lander eventually starts falling. I'm going to have to double check. And now he's moving towards a human. He's found one. And he moves not that great. Unless, I wonder if, oh, he just ate a human. And we can zoom in, and the egg should hopefully turn into, oh, there it goes. There's the mutant, who should align themselves in a moment. Again, I apologize for the horrid sounds. We're going to fix that because I'm hoping to do 3 little vids on the one button game jam, just talking. And I just remembered I was going to tell a Bungie story, and I meant to do that in the beginning. I was going to tell the story of the very first headshot. And and now I'd feel like a jerk if I said I'd do it next time, but the very first multiplayer deathmatch, the very first multiplayer match of Halo, and I understood the game went on for about 6 hours. I didn't stay for all of it. What happened is it was 6 or 7 o'clock, so the office, big office, was pretty empty, and I'm staying late because it is at this point 3 weeks until the big E3 premiere. 4 weeks, something like that. It's getting close, so I'm staying late, and drove instead of took the bus. Because normally I just like taking the bus, and I'd bill for all the time I drew on it, and that was fun. But so I think most people are gone, and what I'm doing is I am just testing out Blood Gulch. I'm testing out the level and loading it up. And what I had to do is I had to create a server to test the game. I created a server, loaded it up, loaded up the level, and I go test. Well, it never really occurred to me that I'm creating a server and it's on the Microsoft servers. So, it never occurred to me that my boss is at home, or that, various people can see this pop up. So what happens is I'm walking around, just looking at the level, I'm looking for problems and errors. Because I want it to be nice. I want there's a limited number of triangles. There's like 6,700, but I wanted it to be smooth and you can just fly, just drive over it and it feels good. So I'm walking through the landscape, and all of a sudden I fall through the floor. And it's like, that's weird, because that's never happened before. But it's got to be a collision bug, right? Yeah, I mean, obviously it has to be, or there's no reason for it, or it's a bad polygon. And that's my initial thought, but the way that we constructed the levels, these BSDs, there was no way to have a bad polygon. I mean, there could not be a hole in the geometry. It was just not possible. But that's impossible. So I restart. Basically, we're respawning, and I walk out to that same spot, in the middle of Blood Gulch, and I'm looking for where I fell through, and boom, I fall through again. I just fall through the world, and so I do it a third time, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get near it, I'm just going to stay where I know, because this polygon, what I was looking at, it might have been like about maybe 15 feet, 30 feet wide in game. So I'm just looking at it, and boom, it happens again. And this time I hear laughing. And when I spawn in again, one of the network guys had seen that I had loaded up, a level. I was like, hey, yeah, here it is. And they logged in, and they chose the sniper rifle, and they were just taking pot shots at me. And I look around, and now there's like 5 or 6 people have joined, and it's a pretty good fight. And no, I was not allowed to test it again. We're kind of playing, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to work on this, but because it was up, I that game went on until the wee hours of the morning, I'm told. It was a lot of fun. The very first headshot in multiplayer Halo, that was me on the receiving end. I don't know if you see me online. I'm a mid player, but I enjoy it. And I'm told everyone had a good time. It was just really funny for me. I don't know if I told the story, but I don't know if I told the story well. But it was just really funny for me, because here I am. I'm just in the middle of the world, thinking I'm alone, because I'd have my headphones on, right? It was my first time in a big office. I usually had my own office. So first time in a group office with cubicles everywhere. So I'm just there in the middle, just feeling the tranquility, and boom, and I'm thinking, oh, it's got to be an error. But there was no death animations yet, and so that's why there was no ground. When you died, you didn't switch to a dead body that then had a collision. That the ground, you would just fall straight through the world, and I think we had to manually respawn in the console, maybe. But those first few times I fell through. Well, I ended the server because I'm thinking there's a problem. I'm going into I think it was 3D Studio Max. Like, there's no problem there. And it's like, I think it's that polygon, and then go back into the world and let me find that exact polygon in the world. Just not always the easiest, because you're different perspective. Fall through the world again when I get near there, and third time, that's when I kind of realized like there's something fishy going on. But that was the very first Halo multiplayer match. Like I said, 3-4 weeks before E3, so it was half done. I mean, it was being refined. I was really refining every single polygon, because I didn't want the warthog to hit anything that was like more than 33 degrees. So that was it. There's one bad polygon that when I see it to this day, it still bothers me. But thank you for coming to my little get involved in game jams talk, and we'll be back. I will talk more about Lander, and we're gonna try and do some code for it. I feel so bad for my Lander, for all my code, but I'll give everybody a sneak peek of what hopefully will be better next time. And I forgot to even talk about what happens when you're touched, but we'll do that next time. All right, thank you.